have to share with you today is going to be quite interesting, and it may also be quite unusual for some of you. And I'm sorry I can't see all of you in the room, but I'll do my best to be clear so that you can all hear. So, thank you all for coming, because I know for most of you it's supposed to be a day off, which means a day in bed, maybe? Yeah? So thank you so much for coming, but I want you all to first understand that you were all brought here for a reason that you know yourself within. You may not realize it, but you're here for a reason. And people who haven't made it, and I know this room is supposed to be over-prescribed today. Basically, a lot of people have booked and not been able to get a seat. So those people, maybe it's not their time. So you guys are really special. Okay? Right, so I'll begin by introducing myself. My name is Catrima Gabrielle, and I'm from the UK. I've been brought up there all my life. I have been coming to Bangladesh from 2015. I actually came to see my daughter turn 21. She was working here, so I came along.
21.
Sorry?
I thought you turned.
That's very kind, thank you. But actually, I'll speak about that as well in a little while. So yeah, my daughter was turning 21, and I turned up to Dhaka to surprise her. And nobody knew what I did. I came for a holiday, came for a month, and one of my friends decided to have a session with me. And I did this session for her, and she then quickly told another friend, and another friend, and another friend. And I had to extend my stay because within 2 weeks, there were 39 people booked to sit with me. And then I thought there's a huge need for what I do over here. And that's why I started to come back. So every 4 months, I came back and I stayed for a couple of months, went back to UK. I've got 4 cats. I'm the mother of 4 cats. Wow. So I had to keep going back to Thank you. So which means my base will be here. So I love Bangladesh. I was born here, but went to the UK as a child for big corporations in the UK. But I was never happy. I was never happy. I was earning a lot of money, doing a lot of things, meeting a lot of people, professional people, corporate people. And I thought, my career was going to take off and everything was going fine, but I was never happy. And I never found myself staying in one place. I kept chasing other jobs. Even if I got a really good job, I think it was never enough. And I would try and find something better. So that went on for a while. Eventually, I got married before, and my marriage broke down. And it was a huge shock for me because, he was my first love of my life. Lasted for 13 years. I had my daughter who was 2. And at that time, I struggled. Mentally, I was shattered. Emotionally, I was completely ground level. So that was the beginning of my journey. And what I want to say to all of you today is that you don't have to go through a crisis to develop what I've developed. And what I've developed is an ability of intuition that is so focused that I can scan a room and pick up things that you wouldn't dream that I know. I'm not doing that, by the way, so you're all safe. None of you are naked in front of me, okay? So it's an inbuilt ability that we all have. And this is the one thing I want to say until I die, because majority of us are not using this ability that we have been given. And it's a shame because it's God-given. And those of you who are not religious, it's okay, because neither am I. But what I do want to say is, just like you have 2 arms and 2 legs, you have this ability which you haven't opened. And I'm number one fool for actually not opening my ability until I was pushed to. And so most people who do open the ability, I usually fall into a crisis before they're opening their package, as it happened with me. So basically when my daughter was 2, I went through this horrendous divorce, so I fought a hard battle, and somehow or other, there were guides behind me who helped to actually bring her through to me, and I took her back to the UK. But going back to the UK, we found that she was regressing rather than progressing, emotionally, mentally, in every way. And that's when I started to delve into unknown kinds of therapy, because none of the normal kind of therapy was working for her. Child specialist, psychologist, psychiatrist, nothing was working for her. So I, as a mother, had to find an alternative. You know, when something happens to your child, you will fight to find a way to make things better. And so I came across NLP. Any of you heard of neuro-linguistic programming? Yeah? So neuro-linguistic programming, for those who are not aware of it, is neuro is the brain, linguistic is language, program is programming. So basically it's reprogramming the mind to think in a different way. So I trained at that, and I became a master at that. And I became really good at that. And then I found banking meant nothing to me. The corporate world meant nothing to me. And this was my passion. Neuro-linguistic programming was my passion. And I kind of saw the changes that I made in other people's lives by purely talking to them. But with that, with neuro-linguistic programming, you actually have to also qualify as a hypnotherapist. And while I was qualifying for that, somebody was training on me, did a really good job, took me really deep into my unconscious level. And when he clicked me awake, I was a different person, because something unlocked in my brain somewhere. And I was able to look at this person who'd been training me, and I'd never met him before, and I started to recite everything in his life. And it was almost like auto cue. It was like reading from a news, you know, when people read the news and they're reading off the screen. It was like that. I went into this, I wouldn't say a trance, but I went into this faraway place, which I later recognized as my unconscious level. And I was talking about his daughters, his wife, his car, his dogs, everything. And this guy got really freaked out. And he said, I'm not training with her, I'm going to work with somebody else. And he ran off to the other side of the room, complained to my trainer, and said she's, you know, cuckoo. So all the things that I told him, like I told him his wife would be late, his wife's car would be broken down somewhere, and she would not be able to pick him up. By 4 o'clock, that had happened. Also described his wife's looks, how she looked and everything, the car model, his dog in the back of the car, all of that. And then he came back to me at 4 o'clock and says, you know what, I don't know what you're on, what kind of drug you're on, but I want some of that. Because what you told me about my life, and you've never met me before, has completely freaked me out. So what did you do? I said, I have no idea. And I was a little bit shaken. I thought it's coincidence. And then I was going home on the train, and I was thinking, it cannot be a coincidence, because there were too many facts there. You can pick up certain things, you know, you can pick up by intuition certain things, but these were facts. These were things about his life that I had no reason to know. So I went home and spoke to my daughter, and I told her this had happened. She says, Mom, you're freaky, you should be on Star Trek. So after a few weeks, things went on, and I found I was getting more and more accurate. It hadn't just happened that one time, it was happening all the time. To the point where I would be walking in the park with my daughter. I had a dog at that time. I'd be walking my dog. People would be walking past with their dog. I'd be tuning in with the dog. So I'm also an animal communicator. So I use telepathy to actually communicate with animals. That's, in UK, it's 60% of my work, communicating with animals. So I work with, you know, Horse of the Year show in UK is very, very big. I work with the top horse trainers there. And we've had many winners purely because of the work that I do with horses. And these are all, you know, we've got testimonials, so these are all true stories. It sounds very spaceshipy, right? But it's all true. But the point I want to get back to is that I'm no special person. I'm the same as every person sitting here and outside. All I've done special is I fine-tuned it. And initially it was scary. A lot of people are very scared about what they're going to find, what's going to happen, who they're going to insult by knowing things about them. But there's a way you can manage the whole thing. And I'm not saying all of you are going to become therapists like I've done in the last 14, 15 years. But in your own daily life, you can all be using your intuition in such a wonderful way that you will never think twice about your decisions. Your decisions will come to you just like that. And if you've got two roads to take, you will know. You will just know which is the right road. And I'm not saying there are wrong roads, because there's never a wrong road. There's always experiences. I don't see them as wrong or right. I see them experiences. But what I would say is if you do take the right road, it's quicker. And it's less painful. Because a lot of people go through an awful lot of pain to get to the point of their life where they need to get to. But again, there's another flip side to that. Because the more pain you receive, although it's uncomfortable, the more you learn. Because in life, if you don't have pain, you actually don't appreciate anything. So I think pain makes you realize when things are good. If things were good all the time, number one, you would not grow. And number two, it'd be boring. How much of a good thing can you take? And maybe after you've been through all the pain and all the good stuff starts happening, that's the best bit. And Alhamdulillah, that's where I am at the moment, because I've been through years of turmoil, years of hardship, financial losses, emotional losses. I lost my dad, I had to get over that. I lost my marriage, I had to get over that. But now I'm at a point where I've fine-tuned it in such a way that you can bring yourself to a point in life where you really appreciate and you flow. So what about emotional intelligence? That's part of the heading that I was asked to talk about. But to be honest with you, I'm going to link the two to make things even stronger for you. So who understands what emotional intelligence is? What would you think? What do you think?
Being mindful of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Being a little mindful.
Right. Who else? Anyone?
Emotional intelligence is to understand my own emotion,
Yeah.
to express my emotion,
Yeah.
to understand others' emotion, and to influence others.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely. I would say, so what's the difference between your intuition and your emotional intelligence? So I believe your emotional intelligence is required when there's two or more people in the room, or at least yourself and another person. Because emotional intelligence, although it's about yourself as well, you cannot practice it if there's no other person in the room. It goes with another person. And with intuition, you can be as alone as anything in a dark room, and you will always have that intuition. And intuition is also a guidance that comes from an unconscious level. And emotional intelligence is what you see visually in another person. Say, for instance, you walk into a room and you see a lot of people there. If you're really highly tuned in emotionally, you can sense even that woman is laughing. I can see sadness behind her eyes. So you're able to perceive what other people are feeling without having to talk to them. But intuition is a guidance, kind of a guidance monitor or a compass. It guides you in the right way, towards the right path, towards the right decisions. So I don't want to make things too complicated, because I think a lot of people make the mistake of naming too many things and making too many complications and trying to educate you in a very, very difficult intellectual level. I'm no brain box, I'm a very simple person who speaks a very simple language. I'm not a doctor. I've trained as a therapist, but I'm only trained in neuro-linguistic therapy. So basically, my intuition, and I'm more sought after for my intuition rather than my NLP now. Because before, when I started to become an NLP practitioner, people called me for that. But when I started to use my intuition, my psychic ability, I had more people book me for those than the NLP. And for my psychic ability and my intuition ability, I've never been trained. It's literally practice that made me come as far as I have. So, can I ask all of you to just lift up your arm? Okay, do we have any doctors in the house? No doctors, right? Oh, okay. So apart from the doctor maybe, do any of you know all the muscles that it took to raise up your arm? You know? Probably. Well, very few people do, and well done to you. Maybe I should sit with you and learn all those muscles. Okay, you can put your arms down. What I'm trying to say here is you don't need to know the ins and outs of everything about intuition or psychic ability. There's no need to know the names and how exactly happens. Because, to be honest with you, it's more with practice. It's more with going within yourself to know, to get that feeling of what is right and what is wrong. So how can you use your intuition? In what capacity can you use your intuition? Anyone? How many of you actually do? Knowingly? Yeah? So very few people in the room who actually knowingly are using their intuition. Unknowingly you're all doing it all the time. But guess what? You're not listening. You're not taking the advice of what you're being given. I think we second guess and we think that can't be right. You know, I'm getting this feeling, but it can't be right. But that's where you're wrong, because intuition does not lie. We pick up the intuition, maybe not exactly in the right way, and that's why we make the wrong decisions in life or go the longer route in life. So intuition, when it first hits you, it'll be like a knowing. You just know. So when you just know, I've had so many people come to my workshops and say, well, I got that feeling, but I didn't follow it. So why not? What's the worst thing that can happen if you don't follow your intuition? We tend to analyze everything. And there's a time and a place for analytical thought, no doubt about that. Maybe when you're doing algebra, or maybe when you're actually sitting down to do something very, very academic. But even then, I would say your intuition should come in and give you a hand. Because in every step you take in life, your gut will know the step that needs to be taken. So I'm going to give you a little example of how else you can use your intuition. How many of you are studying still in some kind of a academic time of your life? Okay. So remember I was telling you about my daughter? From the age of 2 till the age of 7. From the age of 2 till the age of 7, we had a lot of trouble with her. She withdrew, she stopped talking, she was very lacking in confidence. And then I started to use NLP on her, and I started to use my intuition on her, and I started to do tapping. There's another form of therapy that I use on people. Started to do those things. So from a caliber of a student, like she would be sat with at the table with children who couldn't speak English. Because the teachers could not allow other children to fall back because of that table. So that table was a special table. But when I say special, children don't want to be, told they're special in a wink-wink kind of way. They need more help. It's very, very upsetting for them to think that they can't be with the rest of the crowd. So she was at that table. And every 2 or 3 days, I'd get a call from school saying, come and take your daughter away. Because she's under the table. She's crying under the table. It used to break my heart to go and have to pick her up out of class because she could not tolerate so much noise or so many children, other children all getting along and being happy. And she would just rock. And that's a very dangerous sign. So I used to take her away. Every 2 or 3 days I'd get a call. And then I got a call from the principal saying she needs a special school. Now that little girl, she's going to be 23 next month. And guess what she does? She's just done her degree at Warwick University in politics. She's also a neuro-linguistic programmer. She's a yoga instructor. And she's traveled the world with a backpack on her own. And I'm so proud of her. Even now, I get very emotional because I've seen the struggle that she's been through. But what I'm trying to say here is no matter what point of life you are in at this moment, you can change it in a second. It won't take you that long because it's a choice. And the minute you start to choose to live differently is the minute you're going to see your life completely change. And as you can see, I have no notes with me. I have no notes about what I'm going to speak about because I'm actually being guided to talk about what you need to hear. There's a lot of facts and figures about emotional intelligence and the connection between intuition and psychic ability, and there's a connection between law of attraction, manifestation, and all the things that I do. But I knew when I came into this room that I wouldn't need the notes because I would just look at the people and I'll know what I need to speak about. And this is about going with the flow. How many people here plan things in life? If I don't get this, I can't move forward. Or if I don't have money, I can't travel. Or if I don't have the money, I can't get married. That's one of the things I hear here. My parents told me to get established. I can't marry the girl that I love. I want to marry her, but I can't because I don't have the money. Do you know what? You'll never have the money until you get married. In that case. I have a client who came to me and saying, I have a shop. I'm running out of products because I have to go to India to get the stuff and I don't have the money to go. My shop's doing so badly. I don't have the money to go and buy my products. And I said to her, when do you want to go? And she said, I need to go within the next 2 weeks. And I told her, please, I'm saying to all of you here, write down the things you need. Write down the things you want. And the date you want it by. And people say be specific about what you want. I say the opposite. Don't be specific about exactly what you want because you might get something better. And if you only talk about things that you specifically want, you're creating a ceiling that you can't go above that ceiling. If you want lots of money, don't write down a figure. Just have a vague idea. I want this or better. So I told her, write down the date because you do need to have a deadline. Write down the date and just book your ticket. She said, I don't have the money. I said, just book your ticket. Do you know, she did that within 3 days and she was out of the country within 7. The money came forward. Somehow she made the plan, she took that step and the money just came. You will not know where it comes from, how it happens. But that's the law of attraction. How many of you know about law of attraction? So basically those who don't, the law of attraction is about manifesting things that you want in your life. And whatever religion you are, whatever you believe in, there is a universal law that what you think about, you bring about. So if you're thinking about something that you want, you will attract it. But it's not just the thinking about it, it's actually desiring it with emotions from your heart. And once you do that, you will find that you start to attract these things. Of course there are complications. Life wouldn't be life if there weren't complications. A lot of people say, I've been thinking about it, I've been dreaming about it, I've been using my emotions to draw things, but I still don't get those things. Now here's where I come in, because what I say to them is there are emotional blocks that need to be cleared up before you can flow. And there are certain energetic points of our body which we call chakras. Anybody familiar with chakras? Yeah, so these are, you can't see them, but these are emotional points in our body where the meridian line flows. Now these chakras are like, imagine wheels that are flowing in the right direction. So when we have emotional baggage, which we haven't resolved from our childhood or teenage years, or even earlier, they're now finding scientific research to show how you're affected while you're in the womb even, depending on how your mother and your father were reacting during those 9 months. So those wheels stop moving or stop going around, stop flowing. And those emotions get caught up. And unblocking them It's not like you need an operation. You literally speak about your emotions. You speak about what's bothering you. And so many people here, I can sense with lower back problem. Young people, middle-aged people, older people, I see with back problem and knee problems. I mean, that's what I see. It's got nothing to do with weight. It's got nothing to do with, oh, I hurt myself in the gym. Those are things that bring it out, but those are not the reasons why they start. Now, every part of your body is linked to an emotion that we suppress or we go through. And what happens is those emotions, if we don't resolve them, they manifest into a physical problem. And the way I found out about this was many years ago. I found that many of my clients were coming to me with distinct problems of the knees or the joints on the shoulders or the back. And then after a couple of years, after about 3 years, I started to recognize there was a link between the emotions and the physical things that started to happen. And over the last 14 years now, I've seen maybe just over 3,500 people all around the world. And I say all around the world, I'm not a jet set flyer. I see people on Skype. So I deal with most of my therapy in Skype, although I work in Dubai, work in London, and I work here. These are the 3 places that I'm physically at. But I've got clients who are from America, from Canada, from Europe, India, all over the place. But all of my clients I see on Skype or FaceTime. And this is the beauty of intuition. It works worldwide. You don't have to be in front of a person to actually be dealing with them. You could be anywhere in the world. And also remote viewing, which is really powerful, but that's another subject, which I also, speak about, but this is about intuition, so I'm going to try and stick to that. And I go off topic, so I'm sorry about that. So what I was saying is the physical impact of your emotions is very much evident with everyone I see. So when I had this database done, 3.5 people with what they came to see me about and what their physical problems are, all linked. So I could have seen a woman in 2007 who came and spoke to me about her emotions. So I tend to ask, how are you physically? Okay, we've talked about your emotions, how are you physically? And she'll say, I've got this massive shoulder problem. I've had it, I asked them, how long have you had it? Oh, I've had it for this long or that long. I said, think back to 18 months to 24 months before that problem first came. What was happening in your life then? And they would give me the story of what was happening to them at that point, and it would make sense. Also the body, intuition is such a thing. You can speak to your body with your intuition. Literally, I speak to my kidneys, I speak to my heart, I speak to my liver, and I can sense how things are. And these things, you can literally recover massive physical problems by tuning in, resolving an issue that's emotionally connected, and you find you're free of that physical problem. And in many areas of the world, a lot of therapists are coming up with ways of eradicating a problem, a major problem, simply by talking to people. I think you might have heard something like that, yeah? So it's amazing the ability of the mind and how powerful this thing is. It's not the brain, it's the mind. 2 different things. And how you connect your mind to your heart. Your heart is the base of you, your soul, your spirit. And I work with corporations. So basically, I work with companies where they're stagnating and they're not hitting targets. So I get salespeople come to me and say, I was doing so well last year. I got an award for my selling skills, I was the top seller of my company. Nothing is working now. What's happened? And what I do is, I say, stop talking about work, talk to me about you. Because even if a major corporation comes to me and says, I have this problem, and by the way, that department is the problem. Talk to that manager and please help sort him out. I say, no, this is the problem here. You're the owner of the company. It's your heart that's actually keeping this company going or making things worse for you. So I get back to the person's personal life. You know, everything that you do outside of yourself will be affected by what's inside of yourself. It's as simple as that. Unless you fix yourself here, things outside of you will not be flowing. And it's a tough thing to actually recognize because you think you're okay. We all think we're okay. But we all have issues. I have issues. You know, no matter how many things I work through, there's always an issue that comes, new issues, new challenges, which I have to work through. So the way I'm going to advise you is the way I advise my daughter. When you go through something that bothers you, even makes you think, even for a little bit, that you feel uncomfortable, that's an issue. Because if you don't deal with that discomfort for that moment, it stagnates somewhere in your body. So every tiny thing, even imagine driving and you're stuck in traffic. How many of us swear? It's a good thing to swear. It's a good thing because you're expressing it. As long as you're not offending anyone around you. Don't be swearing in front of your parents. I found out in this culture it's not a very good thing. I remember doing a workshop just a few weeks ago and I said some very bad words in Bengali, which I didn't know the meaning of very well. And my friends had taught me, said they're good words, didn't you? So I got taught some very bad words, and I thought they were little swear words, and I said them, and they were, and then they all laughed. So it was okay. So swearing, although it's not acceptable in society, you can do it if you're not being heard by everyone. And the other way of expressing it is actually just accepting it. If there's traffic there, and I'm talking about traffic because it's such a big problem for everyone, yeah. Such a huge problem for everyone. If there's traffic there, what can you do? You can't come out of your car and fly, right? The only thing to do is accept it. And you'll realize as soon as you've accepted it, you start flowing. Saad and I never get stuck in traffic. We have appointments all through the town, you know, like the whole city. We go from one place to another. And in fact, when I have clients that I see on my own, the driver will come. Madam, you've got to hurry up. There's so much traffic. You've got to come down and, you know, we don't have much time. What are you talking about? 1 hour, 40 minutes to get 20 minutes down the road. We have enough time. He's saying, no, you don't know how bad the traffic is both ways. It's stuck. And I stay calm. I take my time. I go in the car. And there's no traffic. And the driver's like, I don't know what happened. I don't know, it's coming this way, and this happened, and that happened, I know what happened. I said, it's okay. You know, your mind can shift things. Your mind has the power to change the world around you. And this is what I, would like people to realize. When you leave this room today, start using your mind. Instead of just physically getting through your day, start getting through your day with your mind. And I think many of us will come to realize that learning all this when you've got baggages from years ago, it's harder to let go of these baggages when you've built them up into a mountain inside of you. Wouldn't it be nice if we taught our children this from a very young age? Imagine how things would change for the world. If our kids learn to let go of issues, because trust me, 90% or if not more of our issues are to do with our childhood, the way we've been brought up, the way we have been spoken to, the way we have been taught certain things, the way we are expected to do certain things in society. Why? Because it's not acceptable to do it the way you want it. And my belief is that if you don't do it the way you want it, you will have issues later. And people say to me, well, isn't that being selfish? You should do things for other people. Of course you should do things for other people. But how can you do anything for other people if you haven't catered to yourself first? You know, it's not selfish, it's selfless. Because you cannot give of yourself if you haven't got anything to give. And one of the things that I'm seeing here, a lot of my clients are between the ages of 15 to 20. Such a sad thing, because parents are wanting their children to live the lives that they didn't live. You know, I wanted to be a doctor, is what I hear all the time. I wanted to be a doctor and I couldn't, and you have to be a doctor now. You know, imagine the pressure. Is being a doctor the passion of that child's life? No. I have dealt with children trying to hang themselves and dealing with suicidal children right now in my capacity of what I do. And unfortunately, it's got nothing to do with anything else but family. And family is meant to be the environment where the child is protected. And they're being protected, they're being fed, they're being clothed, they're being given money, they're being given access to buas and maids and cooks and everything else, but they're not being given access to their own mind. And it's killing them. And this is such a sad scenario that I see here, because these children are growing up to do for others and not for themselves. And we're talking about intuition here, but this is such an important matter, because children not being given the will to live their own life, or the encouragement and the support to live their own life, are the ones who are growing up and becoming adults with issues. And this is something that I know can be changed, because with education, I don't need to sit with the children, I need to sit with the parents. And I need to sit with the parents to make them understand that because we think we've given birth, we have a right of living their lives, and we don't, And this is what we're finding time and time again, that children feel they owe their parents. And the way I brought Summer up is like from the age of 11, I said, now it's your life. I've taught you the foundation. I've taught you manners. I've taught you respect. I've taught you good and bad. I've taught you how to be with others and yourself. Every decision you make now are the consequences of your own choices, and you face them. I'll be there to support you regardless. I'll always be there. And the thing is, if we don't allow our children to make these decisions themselves, how will they ever learn? And they can only learn if they make mistakes. And if they're making mistakes, they're actually growing up, becoming responsible. What I'm trying to say here is, let's allow our children to make their own decisions, even if they're mistakes. Let them learn. Because they were born alone, they came to earth on their own, and they will die alone. So they should be given the option to live their life as they choose. And I'm thinking here that us as adults, we're learning about intuition because we're coming to these workshops and seminars. But if children from the age of 5 onwards, or even earlier, are taught these things, to use their brain in a different way, not just in an academic way, not in an analytical way, but they're taught to think and reason with their heart, you'd have a whole society that does things in a different way, in a better way. And this I would term as growth. Because at the moment we're stagnating, don't you think? In so many ways, we're actually stagnating. We're moving forward technology-wise, we're moving forward in architecture, we're moving forward in mechanics, we're moving forward in so many different ways, but we're not moving forward in a human way. And also, if you think about your mind, what I've noticed, I've read about, and I've seen, is if you elevate yourself to that way of thinking and seeing the world, you're actually causing a ripple effect around the whole world. How many of you have heard the butterfly effect? Right. The butterfly effect, in a very simplistic way, one flutter of a butterfly's wings if done in the right way, in the right direction, in the right breeze, will affect thousands of miles away, the things around the world thousands of miles away. So your thought has energy. Everything you're thinking about is energy. It comes in a vibrational wave. And when I do telepathy, when I read people, I'm not reading their facial expressions, I'm not reading their physicality, I'm not reading their emotions that show up. I'm literally tuning into their subconscious mind and unconscious mind and preconscious mind. Things that they're not even thinking about. So I have a lot of people thinking they're very funny and they come up to me and say, what did I have for breakfast? Tell me, what did I have for breakfast? That's irrelevant. I'm not even going to go there because I don't know what you had for breakfast. It's not important enough for me to know. But if you ask me, what do you think my issues are? Why do you think I'm stagnating in life? How can I overcome these things? I can just look at a person and know. And I can get that particular issue at the age that it happened, and we can both look at it like this and delve into it and resolve it. Because the past is the past, it's happened, but it's still affecting you. Why is it still affecting you? Because you're letting it. And even if you're not consciously letting it, you're subconsciously and consciously letting it evolve around your body, coming into a physical thing, and then affecting your health. So not just your health, it's affecting your life. So basically you're stagnating, you're not being able to move forward. So these resolutions of sorting out your emotions that you've left for years and years and years and years, it should be a concept that's taught. How many of you would like to learn just one way of letting go of your emotions? Come on, let's see some more hands up. None of you got problems? Okay, so I'm going to show you a very, very fast way. Khadija's going to show you in a little while. So what I'd like you to do when you go home and when you have up to 2 or 3 hours free, please don't tell me you're too busy. If you're too busy, then you might as well just expect your life to stagnate. And if you want to flow, then just do this for 2 or 3 hours. It might not take that long for some people because a lot of people may not be ready to do it. So I'm not going to say that you're all going to be able to do it the first time. Some of you may be blocked. Some of you may think it's not going to work. Some of you may not really get into it. But if you follow what I say, really follow what I say, you will feel incredibly good. You feel like flying, but don't jump out the window or anything like that. I don't mean physically flying, but emotionally you'll be up here and your vibration will be up here, which is really good. So what you do, find a time when you're going to be alone for 2 or 3 hours. Nighttime works best after a full day of work when you're busy, and nighttime you're unwinding, so you're relaxed. Get a candle, light it, turn off all the lights, and if you get really hot, put the AC on if you want to, but the fan will obviously shut the candle off. Have a pad and a pen next to you, and think about all, excuse my language, shitty things that have happened in your life. Okay? So think of all the negative things that have happened, not the good things, the really bad things. And surprisingly, I get a lot of clients saying, but I can't think of anything bad. Oh. Are you kidding me? Everyone can think of bad things that have happened. And if you haven't, then you've been so lucky. So even minor things from your childhood, where you fell off your bike and you scraped your knee and no one cared, that's a bad thing. So try and think of things. And then I still have clients saying, I still can't think of anything bad. So at that point I say, start swearing on paper. You know swear words, right? Just start swearing on paper. And once you start swearing on paper, I can guarantee you shitty things will come out. Because that will lead you to all the negative things that have happened in your life. So start swearing, and if you don't need to swear and you've got bad things coming out of your nose, just start putting them on paper. You will find that you start crying, you get very emotional, and you're going to get very upset, but that's a good thing, because you're getting it out, right? So do it as long as you flow. As long as it's coming out, just keep writing, keep writing, keep writing, don't stop. don't stop to punctuate. Don't stop to put capital letters and cross out words that you haven't spelled right. Write what flows, it doesn't matter. And if they're in note forms, they're in note forms. If they're in paragraphs, they're in paragraphs. It doesn't have to make sense. You just have to get your feelings out. After you've done that and you can't get any more out, read it at that point. And after you've read it, take the paper and the candle to a safe place. Please don't burn down your house. Go to a safe place like over a sink and burn that piece of paper. And what that's doing is actually getting the stuff out and clearing the energy. You're basically letting it go, up in smoke. And what a lot of people do, and the mistake they make, how many of you as children kept diaries, or even as adults, kept diaries of the day? How many of you have put negative things in your diary? And how many of you have kept that in a drawer or a bed or somewhere around your room? Well done, because you created your negative life. Because words have energy. And what you've done, you've written negative, horrible things in your diary, thinking, why won't my life change? And put it under your pillow and slept on it. Yeah? So thoughts, words have energy. And these energetic things, vibrations, are all around you. If you don't get rid of it, then those things will keep on affecting you and you will grow with it more. As you build more blocks, you build more emotional, psychological and emotional hurtful blocks, and they keep on growing as you go about your day. So do that, and once you've done that, you will feel such a relief. And I taught this to my daughter when she was 11, and she's been doing it, and she does it every month. Because you build up more things. You don't want to get to a point where you're a mountain again. You want to keep it into a little hill, right? Or a little mound, no bigger. So if you do that on a regular basis, you're going to find that your life will start to flow. And using your intuition will come as second nature. And unfortunately, we don't have time at all, but 1 hour is not enough to actually speak about these things in a more thorough way. So when I do a workshop, maybe keep an eye on my page on Facebook. Maybe you'd like to come to a workshop, and I do 4-hour and 6-hour workshops, whole day workshops, to teach people how to use their brain in a different way. Your brain is not just there to think about academics or work. Your brain is there to create the life you want. And your life can be amazing. And I'm just gonna say very quickly, my husband, he's a lawyer, very analytical. And I met him 2 years ago, and when I met him and I said, this is what I do, he said, what the hell is that? And now he's an intuitive therapist as well, because he spent so much time with me and heard so much of this thing go. He's had no option but to actually grasp it and grow with it, and he's incredibly intuitive. That's why I'm saying, if an analytical lawyer can do what I'm doing, then there's every hope. I was going to say no hope. No, there's every hope for anyone who wants to do this. And again, I'm saying you don't have to give up your careers to do this. Do it for yourself. Do it for your children. Do it for your parents. And any of you want to go? Because I've been told that this room is empty for a little while longer. So if any of you want to leave, because it's an hour, you can leave right now. Nobody wants to leave. Okay, so I'll carry on, and whoever wants to leave can leave. I'll just carry on as long as one person is standing here. So the thing is, this intuition thing, it's not hard, and it's something that is within all of us anyway. So we can all start to use it from today. Has anyone got any questions? Let me answer some questions. Yeah.
Yeah, so most of the scientists consider remote viewing telepathy as a pseudoscience.
Yeah.
You know, like I've heard many of it, because there is a scientist called Dean Radin. He's been working with remote viewing and the psi, in parapsychology.
Yeah.
But most of the scientists, deny that kind of, scientific work. How would you answer this kind of statement? This is a pseudoscience.
Yeah. I believe in a lot of things that people don't have any proof over.
Yeah.
I believe in God. There's no proof. I believe my father is my father. This I haven't gone to, check whether he is. I believe it. So there are a lot of things that are unexplained, and for a long time it'll be unexplained. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't work. And I also, talk to people who passed away. I do something called mediumship. Because I believe that people do not die. The soul does not die, the body dies. We just go to another dimension. And I've been doing this, not from the very beginning of what I term my therapy consultations, but I would say 4 years into my consultation, I started to sense that there's other ways of connecting to people who've passed away. And so people come to me with the names of their father or their mother or their dog. And I connect with them, and I tell them detailed information about what happened to that person. And in fact, the other night, Sadat and I were talking, and he showed me a picture of a guy, a man. He showed me the picture, and because I don't live here, I don't know who he is, or whether he was even dead or alive. And he said, "What can you tell about this man?" And I said, "Oh gosh, he was murdered." And he said, "Well, the thing is, he is dead, but he apparently hung himself." I said, "No, he didn't. He might have died as a result of hanging, but he didn't hang himself." And so I started to go into a whole zillion of words about what happened to him. And I had no clue who he was. And later he explained the story.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is people do not die. The soul doesn't die.
But I was also thinking, isn't it necessary to scientifically challenge those scientists? Because,
No.
if you don't...
No. No. What's the point? And the thing is, one day they might understand, and one day they might not. And I say this to all of you here as well. Some of you might have come here out of interest, maybe, or some of you might have come because you believe, and some of you might have come because neither way, you don't know. And it's not my job to convince you. My job is just to show you what I do, and my job is never to make you believe what I do. That's not my job. I don't have the energy to do that, and I don't want to do that, because maybe your time isn't now. Maybe your time will be another time. Maybe your time will be never. Who knows?
Do you find any connection between intrapersonal intelligence and intuition? Intrapersonal intelligence, which comes from multiple intelligence theory.
I haven't actually looked into that, but I think people with that kind of intelligence, I think there's always a connection. And I think, you see, the soul is so vast. Like the mind, we've only come to learn a little bit about the mind. Also the soul, we've only come to know a little bit about the soul. So I think there's always a connection. I also believe children with special needs who are autistic, they have abilities that normal human beings don't. And I think we have a lot more to learn from them than they do from us. And they have come into the world to show us another way. And I think we say, oh, they're not right, or they're abnormal, or there's something wrong with them. It's actually something wrong with us. I think everyone has come in a way that they are meant to have come, to teach other people around them about that special child. Yeah. Any other questions? To say to you that you can still do that candle thing with your father in mind. Because it doesn't matter whether the person has passed away or whether the person is still alive. You can still move those feelings away by writing. You can do it with an ex. Like you might not be talking to that person anymore. You might not have any connection with that person, but you have a lot of unresolved issues to do with that person. You can still do this writing with him in mind or with her in mind. And somehow, I've also known, because I do telepathic sessions, basically I read from photos. People will come and say, this is my ex, this is his photo, he did this, this and the other. I want closure on it and I can't get closure on it. What do I do? So I'm able to pick up thoughts of that ex, why he did what he did, why things turned the way they did, and give this woman closure by talking directly. I have a two-way conversation with that person's mind. But what I found, this is how powerful it is. What I found is after I've done the conversation, the man does not know his ex has come to me, and yet within a week or maybe sometimes even less, he will call her. Because I've done something to shake up the thinking of that person without him even knowing. So my thoughts have come to his mind, and his thoughts have actually felt, I need to call her and say sorry, or I need to call her and make sure she's okay. So I've had things like this where I've communicated with a person without them knowing, and yet they've taken action to do something that somebody has come to me about. So thoughts are that powerful.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is very powerful. I'm sure it's stirring a lot of thoughts in many minds in this room. That, oh, I need help in this, I need help in that. But I have one fear about this is, I don't know if you're aware, in Bangladesh there's this, I would call quote unquote business of peerdom, where a person says that, I can cure your cancer, I can heal this, I can do good to your business. So where does one draw the line?
Yeah. I think the line is drawn where the power is given to you, and the power is not mine. I try to empower people to use their mind. So if you notice, I've been sitting here saying, you can all do this. Yeah? So I'm trying to give you the power so you don't keep coming to me or keep going to peace, or you just learn it for yourself. And I'm here as a teacher and a therapist. There are a lot of people who don't want to learn it and don't want to do it for themselves. They want to come to me people retain me. Companies retain me to actually do the work when they've got a big project going on or somebody's going through a divorce. They're not in the right frame of mind to actually be able to cope. So that's when they retain me. But most of the people who come to me come for one session. To number one, I do 90-minute sessions. So they come and sit with me, they tell me their problems, these are the issues. I try and delve into why they're having these issues, because they themselves don't know. What's stagnating them? They don't know. So I try and help them. I show them the problem, and then I tell them, I ask them, or I teach them, this is how you sort it out. You see, I can show you the door, but I can't push you through. But I can show you the way to open the door. And whether you take the action to change your life is up to you. I always say, I'm a very expensive counselor, but I'm a very cheap life transformer. If I can help transform your life, I'm really cheap. But if I just sit here and talk to you and you talk to me and you get a comfort from that, I'm very expensive. So if you want your life changed, it's a different thing. And the other thing is predictions, because I'm a psychic as well. I can predict things, but I choose not to because it's not in my hands. You see, if I sit with somebody and I see their life, what's going to pan out, I see that happening, but the person does not take the action to make it happen, it won't happen. So my prediction won't be right. But what I do say sometimes is I see road A and road B, sometimes road C. I see 3 options that could happen. Which would you like? And then they tell me A, B, or C, and I help to direct them towards that, to take the action. If they pay me and spend 90 minutes with me and go away and don't do it, that's them. I can't make them do it. Just like I can't even make my daughter do something. I can't make a total stranger do something that I'm asking him or her to do. So it would be your life to drive your life. I can sit in the back and help guide you and read the map, but I can't make you do the driving. Yeah?
Can I?
Yes.
Is there any connection between meditation and your theory?
Yes, meditation is part of it because it takes you in. Because remember, we live in a very external world. All we see are, see and use our 5 senses that we think we have. Meditation takes you inwards, which really makes you powerful to actually receive the reception is strong. Yeah.
I am interested in NLP.
Yeah.
And I know there is the Swiss technique.
Yes.
and I am here because I have migraine problem, and I want to use the swish technique.
Yeah, the swish technique, yes.
Actually, I am interested in this.
Yeah. Well, the swish technique, I can't do it here because you need to actually be doing it one-to-one or in a group session, but we don't have time to do that. It takes about
So
30-40 minutes.
You advise me what should I do?
Well, you need to see an NLP practitioner
Yeah,
to get to do the swish pattern. What's the problem you're talking about?
Migraine.
Migraine. Oh, there's other ways to diminish
stop it,
that as
yeah.
well. Have you heard about EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique? I'm a therapist for that, and it's where you
I
basically.
should contact you.
Sorry.
I will contact.
Oh, please do. Yeah. We have a meridian of our body, which is the energetic fields of our body, and there's certain parts of the body if you tap. I don't know if you've under the arms as well, on top of your head. So there's a sequence of events that you have to do, and this thought pattern. Basically, you say certain things while you're tapping, and it takes away the issue straight away. You have to do it for a while. You have to do it for 30-40 minutes, sometimes less, but it works. Khadija, let me know if you need me to leave, because I've asked if they want to go and they've not wanted to go.
It's okay.
I haven't chained them to the chair.
There's a majority who will kill me if I say no. So you're good.
Okay. Anyone? Yeah.
One of the things that you were talking about in the beginning, I feel like is very important in what you're saying is intuition.
Yeah.
So I know several people raise their hands saying they are very intuitive. But I think I have a very hard time with intuition because I'm constantly battling it.
Right.
I get a gut feeling and then I'm not sure if it's a gut feeling, whether I should fight off that gut feeling and then weighing the pros and the cons. So just the basic, my question to you is how to even figure out what is your intuition?
Right. Okay, that's a really good question because you're not in the minority. Majority of the people make this happen to themselves.
Self-sabotage.
Yeah, so basically what happens is intuition. I need you, okay, have a question which has a yes or no answer, okay? Prepare a question in your mind which has a yes or no answer, something that's going on in your life right now. Simple.
Sixth sense.
Sorry?
Sixth sense, people say like that.
Any questions?
Any question, something personal about your life. You don't have to say it to me, you can keep it in your mind.
Okay.
Right?
So you can never give yes or no answers. That's the problem.
No, but this is what I'm going to show you. This is the reason you've asked me is I'm going to show you an exercise where you don't need a yes or no answer. Okay? So, test it. Think of your name. Think of your name, and then while you're thinking about your name, imagine the traffic lights and imagine a green and a red signal. What comes up?
Green.
Yeah, say it.
Green.
Right. So everyone, when you imagine
together.
Sorry? You've got two together coming up. Well, I think we need to make an appointment, right? No, that's okay. I think you might be, maybe you weren't prepared. Maybe you weren't ready just then. We'll try again. So, like most of you, imagined one light which was green, right? Now imagine your another name and say, this is my name. And then what light comes up? Right. Exactly. So now I want you to imagine, and I want you to do it really fast. I don't want you to think about it. It's not an analytical thing where you're having to think, right? I want you to quickly think of a question and then quickly see what light comes up. You need to close your eyes or you can keep it open, whatever you feel comfortable. When you've done it, let me know. All done? Hi.
Sorry. Just on this. Isn't it a bit more wishful thinking if I sort of ask that question and then...
It is if you think it is. Simple question, simple answer. It is, if you think it's wishful thinking, it's wishful thinking. And if you really want to progress, then you have to start really believing and having faith. And intuition is about that. Most people don't follow their intuition because they don't have the faith.
Yeah.
They think they're wrong.
Scared?
Why would you fear it? It's trying to help you.
Because you're not weighing anything.
Huh?
You're not weighing anything. You're not weighing the pros and the cons.
Yes.
There's
So it scares
I
you.
feel the same way.
You feel the same way?
Whatever she's saying, I think I just relate to her 100%.
Maybe you two should take a joint session. Okay, so it's okay because not everybody's going to work in the same way. It just takes practice. I would say with both of you and anyone else who kind of feels a little bit shaky, take little things every day and start to do it. Don't make major decisions straight away, but start practicing with things. Should I have bread or none? Should I have eggs or not? You know, things like that. And the very interesting thing is those who come to me for a session, I also take 15 to 20 minutes to teach them something that is very visible. When you make a decision, you will see it. I use a pendulum. Yeah, heard about the pendulum thing?
Yeah.
It answers a yes or no question. And this pendulum thing is so wonderful because when you're using your intuition, you've had lots of practice, you know you're right. Most of the time I know I'm right, so I don't need to use it, but I actually help clients to see their mind work through pendulum. So anyone, I mean I'm doing a special at the moment, but anybody who books a session gets a free pendulum and a lesson with it. So that's one of the things. So when you say you don't know if you're making your right decision, practice with things like that because it's all about, you know, when you go to the gym, you build muscle. You don't build your muscle in one day. You don't build your muscle in a week. It takes a little bit of time of constant work, right? The mind is the same way. You have to do a little bit of practice and continue with it. About 85 to 87% of the people who come to my workshop go away on the day being able to do something. And then the ones who are really good, they practice and they learn and they keep it going. They read up more, or they go to other places to learn more, or they practice it more. But then you get about 20% or 15, 20%, nah, it's not for me. And that's okay. You know, that's okay because not everybody's the same and maybe their timing isn't right. It's all about divine timing as well. You're all here because it was divine timing for you, you know? And apparently this was overbooked and there's like 80 or 90 people who registered, couldn't get in. Then maybe their timing, maybe it was for their good. They would have probably, maybe their minds would have blown off if they heard so much information that would have scared them. I don't know. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, some people can't remember about their childhood issues at all. It's totally erased. Is it because they have blocked it so well?
Yeah, I think it's because the unconscious level blocks it to protect the person.
Yeah.
And
so how do you make them,
I can
remember?
sense it and I bring it out. Bring it out in the sense I can sense something traumatic has happened, and that's, I use my intuition and I use my scanner. So basically, Sadat calls my eyes X-ray eyes because I can see through certain things. And when I sense, I will start to question what happened between the age of 3 and 5. What was going on in your family? Who was living with you? Were you an only child? By asking these questions, I know what's happened, but I want the person to tell me. And sometimes even then, it's very traumatic, they can't tell me, but we don't have to know the exact cause of it, as long as I know. And then I do certain strategies on that person. And the other thing I do is remote work. So I use my remote ability to pass on a thought or to relieve symptoms. So basically, I will do remote work to make something happen for someone. So if I know a person wants to get a job, they've come to see me and I've said to them, you know those things about A, B or C, which one would you like? If they say I want that job, and if I feel that is right for them, I will question them and find out more. And then by the end of the session, I will say, do you definitely want to go for that? And then I will say what actions to take. And then to guide them and help them a little bit, I will do remote work that night, between 12 and 2. I will do some remote work with my mind to make sure that he is able to go towards that job. And when he's going towards that job, I will just give him a little bit more guidance remotely. So that's why when I say...
Without the person knowing?
No, the person knows I'm doing it. The person, I've taken the permission from that person to actually tell them that I'm doing this. But basically what happens is that people, when they say they're going to take action, sometimes, you know, you procrastinate. And you say you're going to do things and you don't feel like doing it later. So I just give them a little bit more mental strength, emotional strength to actually take those steps to do it. And when people book me for a 90-minute session, it's not 90 minutes that I'm working. I'm actually working between 4 to 6 hours for that one session. So I do about 2 hours work before the person comes to me, 90 minutes with the person, another 1.5 to 2 hours of that person. So you're getting about 6 hours. When I say 2 hours before the person comes, before a client books me, they will send me their photo and their questions. And I will do something else. There's called automatic writing. Anyone heard of automatic writing? Yeah. So automatic writing is when you don't think about anything, you just let your mind wander about a certain topic and you just start writing. And a lot of information about that person will come through me automatically writing about that person. So it takes time to do that. So before the clients come to me, I have already found out a lot of things about that person, so I know which way we're going to be going in the session. Yeah. So I think I'm going to end it now. I think it's been an hour and a half. I hope you've enjoyed it. And those of you who have, stay connected. I do workshops all around Dhaka. If any of you are from UK or Dubai, I do them there as well. And thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you sitting for this long, listening to me speak. And I really, really hope that I've been able to give you a little bit of information in the areas that you're looking for. Thank you so much.